Oh baby, let's look at this brand new banner. What banner did they drop in the game? Oh wait, they're doing this double banner thing? Who is this? Gray Light Princess BERNAVAS. Wait, haven't you been in the game since 82? Yeah, you definitely been in the game since 82. What did they give you? I don't understand. Depression? Whoa. Oh shit. Oh man. What was I out for, like? Wait, we supposed to summon on this or some shit? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Cash, and this video contains the Krabby Patty secret formula, contains open world elements, and is 100% MFO. Now today we're going to be in the tank top edition of the thing. It was just really hot in my room, and I woke up and I'm like, I gotta get my videos going, baby. So we're gonna be talking about BERNAVAS. Of course, you guys know how we do the review. We talk about the base of the character, then we go into what the the FC does. So there's no reason for us to be here. Let's back out and look at BERNAVAS as a solid unit. Turn that volume up, because they don't have lapping stamina. God dang it, man. It's so hard keeping the stamina down, damn it. Now, he is, BERNAVAS here is a really good character. I think most people know that he is actually solid, even though he does get a little screwski daisies. Very similar to Fenris. Like, he has very good cooldowns, but since he hits multiple targets, since he's not coming with that thunder, he just kind of gets fucked. But let's look at the thunder. Let's look at what this man is providing in terms of the stats. So I think now when we look at tanks, I think it's important to maybe consider that defense, because we all know there's only one character, Frankie. Frankie's base defense actually is 1037. So he's actually pretty much in that ballpark not to get hit with bosom. Oh yeah, my man, bosom god guy. He has a chance not to go get screwed over by Fear of the Abyss, but his attack is low enough that he's definitely gonna get screwed by the majority, which most tanks are. This is nothing new. They're gonna get screwed over by the slow speed, the defense down, dodge down, all that stuff, the sticky ickies from the generals if they feel like putting it on him. So that's pretty bad. But also his attack is low enough that he'll go under tranquil. His max HP being 4862. Let's see if he will fall under Garth. Garth is slightly higher. But remember, it's only for the characters that are, low enough. So he's in a really good spot. Like, he's gonna get screwed over by everything, but also get all the benefits. How good of a guy. His hit is pretty high, which is pretty good. So, if you're having trouble chasing around that grave robber, that dastardly mother. If you have trouble with him, maybe you can bring in BERNAVAS. See, look, this character's not bad. He has 100 dodge, 60 critical hit. Oh, that's trash. Block is 120, which is pretty good. I think he's what I would think is the middle of the road, because remember I showed you guys that it goes from like 150 crit to like 280. Like, there's no middle ground. Like, they just was like puts it up. But what's impressive here is actually his attack speed is a little bit above average, which I kind of like. Critical damage and block difference and luck are always the same on every character. It's manipulated through other RNG gear BS for those things to go higher. So all in all, based on his stats, I think that the speed is obviously really good. He has decent amount of HP and decent amount of defense, so he's doing his job as a tank. But then when we go look at the spade, we're gonna get a little bit of a lovely surprise. And not really a surprise, because this character's been in the game since the beginning, so you probably have a good idea what he does. Well, let's check the age. My man's 30. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, you don't get this type of fashion from being a young lad. You gotta get some age on you before you realize you can wear the Tokyo Ghoul mask and got the belts in. He's not wearing the belts on the waist. He's wearing the belts in the chest with the fur coat. My man's dripping out here, bro. If there's any reason, like, it kind of makes you think, like, when we go look at the other chick, like, does she drip like he drips? I don't know, man. Anyway, let's look at his basic attack. That was a lot of extra. I mean, with all those belts, I mean, he probably has to do specific movements to get down. I understand. I hope you guys understand too. Not, that one more time. Look at that. Oh, swing. All up in there. Ballerina. I like it. Anyway, let's go to his passive. And he has the thrust. He's gonna deal damage, who cares, and does a stun to anyone that attacks him before his turn happens again. I do wish that they actually added this in. It's like it's almost assumed, but you would think that thrust and counter happens every single time, but it does not, because that would make it broken. Slightly broken. In other games they do have stuff for that, but it would force you to run more static offense immunity, which I'm actually kind of okay with. I actually don't mind counter and things like that in the game, as long as you have a way to actually break it. Now, he'll gain mana if the target has high health. He also, removes 1 mana the target has, and then gains 1 mana to self if the health of the target is low, which is interesting. Now, you guys do know that you can specifically force thrust to happen. You can force thrusting. Let's not get into that. But what is cool about thrust versus First Guardians, yes, they can use it against you. They can attack you and then you hit them and then you attack back with a wrath counter. But you can also use that too, especially if you can remove a mana and then you gain a mana, depending on who you're attacking, that could benefit you in a large way. So I think that you can also first hit a First Guardian that's low on HP, maybe to remove a mana to prevent them from doing a specific move, because as we know, or you should know, that every move has a mana threshold. Dragon Knight Blessing, he is one of the Dragon Knight characters, so another good reason to have this character is because of the Holy Dragon grounds. Next up is the Masked Swordsman. As you can see, is a 3-turn shock, very similar to Frigid Bolt and all the nonsense that the summer characters are going to supposedly have, but he was doing it originally from the get-go. Now, it is 1 mana, which is awesome for a machine-based character, because that means as long as his health is of a decent amount, he will be able to pretty much 3-turn stun anyone. So let's look at that move, Masked Swordsman. You like my mask? I've always loved that about it, because it made no sense why he would do that. It's just like, yeah, you like my mask? I'm sorry, I'm immature. But 3-turn stun obviously is not a long turn, since it goes by every turn that goes up. Best part to use a low turn stun, and this is something I maybe should have mentioned in the ice shower thing, you want to utilize this on characters that are about to take their turn within 3 turns. So you actually have to do the math, 1, 2, 3, and then once you do that, you should be able to feel like, oh, I can actually screw over this person so they don't get their turn. There's no purpose of stunning someone that's turn is further away, because then you're just hitting them for no reason, which is fine because it does have 150 base. So if you're just trying to do some damage on a certain target, then feel free to do this regardless of the shock value. Get it? Then you have the Thunderbolt Slash, which deals even less damage, but to all the back row homies, and it inflicts shock for 5 turns. Same thing, but as you can see, very low mana. So,
I'll split you in half.
ooh, Tokyo Ghoul, let's go. I like it. Him and Mahar must have went to the same sword shop, So obviously really good because it is a full back row stun, which is for 5 turns, and it's crazy because Fenris, or however you say her name, she does a back row stun for 1 mana. And I think it's just 3 turns or 2 turns or something like that. It's less turns, but 5 turns obviously gives you the opportunity to be more flexible. And if he is as slow, well, he's actually not that slow, but depending on the turn order, you can screw over multiple characters and make them skip their turn. Now, obviously, the only problem with this is that most people have a back row First Guardian at this point, so you're usually going to be triggering at least, most people have like a 2-3, 2 in the front, 3 in the back, so you're probably triggering about a 3 wrath counter when you're doing that. Not that bad depending on the situation, especially depending on when we go into the Dragon Blood nonsense, that it could be possible that it won't be too bad to do now, especially if your defense is up or their defense or their attack is down, depending on other situations. The stun is still viable. I think it's still something that people should consider. Look at the difference. Now, they did change it, that I feel like, which is really weird, is that they gave essentially a black core, like, I feel like gold properties. It's a very strange thing that they're doing here, that this is a black core and then they buff it to where, in my opinion, it starts to have gold properties. This one, and like we said, I still go by my rule. This is a weird thing when you see these. I can't go to the story, but if you read this, BERNAVAS from Perla is a daughter of the Duke of St. West. She dominates the battlefield with her swinging ash gray hair. She displays outstanding swordsmanship even as a young girl. So this is where I was saying, like, it's kind of iffy now when you look at like FC Bathory, and now you look at BERNAVAS, FC BERNAVAS, is that you can kind of think like maybe there's some she might be too young. But if you go to Hero Story, this is a 30-year-old male. but she's not a 30-year-old male. I do think that they should upgrade this, not because of, you know, I'm scared of I'm gonna get searched by the police, but it just would be nice to know the ages when they do switch over. Like, I would like to know how old FC Rudley is. How old is FC Rudley in comparison to the regular skin versus when he's young, quote unquote? You know, is that an 18-year-old kid busting that ass? How long has his skill deteriorated, you know, technically, from him being able to burst, hit AoE and do all that other nonsense, from when he's able to, you know, still do considerable amount of damage, but only to one person at a time. I think that that's just a cool factor. Speaking of that, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I gotta say this in the middle of the video more often so you guys get into that movie 5K, because you guys are already on top of it. But for those that are subscribed, which is still like 60% by the way, that are watching the videos but ain't subscribed, you're dipping in the honey but you ain't providing the bees. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I appreciate if you guys sub, like the video, comment, it helps out. And as you guys, most people could say, I do respond, or at least look at most of the comments that hit my channel. So anyway, basic attack, let's check that out. Same fanciness. Oh, but she ends with a thrust with the weird sword umbrella thing. Now her passive is now updated to scroll. Burial Will is part of the actual thing. Luckily we'll always have that in focus, so I don't have to do anything. Now this is triggered when 70% or more of a maximum health is taken at once. Cannot be removed, so it's a passive buff, which they didn't really need to say cannot be removed. Buff including current damage reduces all received damage by 50% for 2 turns. So when you pretty much get nuked to oblivion, a buff will immediately happen that reduces the damage by 50%. You'll take literally half damage from anything, but after those 2 turns are up, the buff turns into a debuff, which increases all damage received by 30% for 3 turns. Make sure that, you know, it doesn't get stripped in any way, like something that removes a buff. There's not many of it into the game, but also the debuff portion, it'd be smart to have something that takes the debuffs off. Look for skills that remove debuffs from your team, so you can possibly just erase the debuff and not have to worry about that damage increase aspect of it. So, and anyone, if you can, obviously, can you test that for me? It's theory, that's how it should work, buff versus debuff, but I don't have any of these characters, so if you can let me know in the comment section if that works a lot. Somebody helped me in the last video. I asked about, you know, does Summer's Blessing synergize with the general passive, and some people, thankfully, thank you guys, let me know that no, it does not, as I theorized. But sometimes theory doesn't work when the game's coded like a weirdness. Anyway, suppression afflicts target with shock if the target is marked with retribution for 1 turn at the start of each turn. Now it's weird that it says retribution for the start of each turn, so obviously we're like, what's that? So we're gonna go to full swing cutter, and it still has the shock for 3 turns, but it marks the target with retribution if the target is charmed for 3 turns. I just have a weird thing about this. It just seems very strange, and this is what it's like. So in order for this full cutter swing, right, you mark the target with retribution if the target is charmed. So now you're gonna need synergy with Janae. So you get Janae in there, which is hard for her to actually charm people in the first place because she has a relatively low base attack, right? So then they get charmed, and then you hit her with a skill, hit that target with a skill, right, that then shocks them for 3 turns. So they're stunned for 3 turns with retribution. And then you're saying when they afflicts them target with shock if the target is marked with retribution for 1 turn every turn. So they get shocked every turn, but with this skill right now, it's kind of useless. They're already shocked for 3 turns, unless like I'm reading something wrong as far as like it would make sense if the retribution stack thing here lasted longer. So that's kind of why I made fun of her in the intro, because I don't understand that portion of it. Though I do like this. How you doing? I love that they actually still kept the funniness of the close-up face thing, even when she's in the skin. How you doing? And I'm like, look at my mask. So I do like that. So, you know, regardless of the negativity that I'm giving her, it's fun. And look here, it's also the same thing. Of course, let me show the atomic burst. Wink. And then she puts I love it that she puts the umbrella to like block herself from the damage. I mean, first she winks and shoots a Kamehameha at you, so you know the vibes. Now gear set wise, obviously I think you want to go with the more defensive ones. Damage reduction is going to be good because you will be This is likely going to be first Guardians if we're talking about PvP, so reducing the damage you take from Wrath will be awesome. You can go with the block strat. Now his dodge was relatively high amongst other ones, so I think that some green in there would do you pretty good too. It depends on which way you want to go. I definitely don't think you want to go healing. He's not a first Guardian, so, and he's not, you know, he's not meant to do damage, so I wouldn't go with those routes. I would go with either red, green, or blue. I think that that's pretty much it. Now there could be an argument for machine, so you can target who you want to stun with the S2. I think people are sleeping on that aspect, that you can just always stun a character, and if you need to, go stun that battery, go stun that. You can stun priority targets over and over and over again, which I think most people with a brain would probably use it for. You would only use that back row stun for really extreme purposes, or possibly just for to stun a priority target for 5 turns instead. Now I'm not going to go with every character, but most healers to a certain degree. By the way, let's just talk about some characters that I think work well with her. Obviously Anastasia, especially FC Anna, will be really good with him, especially just because of the frozen tier. Frozen tier does clear debuffs, and as I said, with the FC version, you will be tanking a lot more damage, but when that passive triggers, you do want someone that can take away that debuff. In theory, that should work. I'm not exactly sure, but it should be able to cleanse it, so you don't have to deal with the debuff. Also, in theory, anyone with the cleanse passive should be able to take away those stuff too. Now cleanse works currently on damage over time and debuff effects from allies. Whenever one gets triggered, it should immediately trigger cleanse. That's usually how it works. There is some finickiness when it comes from a passive, as we've seen in the other video. I'll show you a card stamp the last video when we were talking about Eye Shower, that how it was weird that Protect, which gives shared health to a target, wasn't considered a positive buff or anything like that. But when we went to a first Guardian whose passive gave a barrier, it worked. So I'm assuming in the same light that if the passive then provides you with a thing that's coded into the game that it works against, a buff or a debuff, it should work. So in theory, cleanse should take off that debuff. So you would want to run a cleanse character with BERNAVAS to make sure that he doesn't have to deal with the nonsense. And that's with that entire line, by the way, of Barrier of Will. If that works, please someone test that for me. I would love you greatly. And that will be the same thing when we go into Summer's Blessing, which, as I will eventually go into this, is that Mana Absorb should technically take away the attack buff. Not from all. We know for a fact that if you give an AoE buff, it will only take it from one person. I don't know how the AI decides who, but it will take the buff from one of them and everyone else gets the buff. But when it's one buff, you can theoretically counter a character like FC BERNAVAS, remove that one buff, gain mana, and all that ilk. So that's just things to watch out for, but I think that those are the most important things. Every other part of having BERNAVAS on your team would just be that, you know, you just want to prevent certain targets from ruining your day. That's pretty much why you would use a stun bot. Like, that's what we call them, stun bots. What do you guys think about FC BERNAVAS? Are you guys gonna summon? I don't think she's definitely. I don't think so. By the way, you see that in the back? Yeah. I don't know. I've actually always had that in my room, but I just thought it would be smarter to actually show it. Just a little funny thing. She's not bad, but like, as far as like, again, new characters coming in, you don't know who's next, you don't know the climate of what's going on. It's really hard to summon for a character doesn't look actually got buffed, unless I'm missing something. Nope. I just read something on Reddit. This person here, apparently Wolfenstein, supposedly tried it out, and he pretty much just said it's for like dodging the machine, like people that stack machine and stuff like that, which I kind of felt like, yeah, it's like a stacking stun. Or I thought that possibly it's a nice way to get around maybe the stun being cleansed, and then the retribution will apply it again. But it's not enough. It's really not enough. It's not enough to warrant getting the character. But that is the only other thing I did think about. It makes the stun stick. So like, I don't tell people to skip banners, but I would say that it's kind of hard to go for that type of character in the climate that another character might come out. These summer characters might come out with this irresistible, like crazy type of buff that might come in, and it'd be like, damn, I summoned for a character that, if you have the character, already does a great job, and it's like, but why did I get this other character that I need another character to benefit from? And a lot of people can't use Janae like that, so I don't know. Like I mentioned, it's really hard for her to charm with anything at all. So, anywho, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and remember that every day at the Kishino is your lucky day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.